Hello and welcome back to Studio Session. I'm Katherine and thank you so much for tuning in for another episode. So we are going to jump right in with today's report. For our reading, I've been reading a lot of Hamlet. This is because I have an English essay due in a couple weeks on Hamlet and I've had to reread a lot of the quotes. Not a bad play, I will say. One of my favorites of the Sheakspeare ones I've read. Eating, we have pears. I think pears are a very underrated fruit, and I've been enjoying pears recently. For playing, I've been playing Sabrina Carpenter's new album. It's called Fruitcake, and I've been listening to it on repeat. It's a Christmas album, and I think there are just some really new, refreshing Christmas songs. I think the Christmas song kind of playlists, essentials, the ones you already always hear are just kind of overplayed now, so I think it's great that she's coming out with some fresh new tunes. For obsessing, I've been obsessed with the bow trend. I've seen bows trending all over social media lately. People are putting bows on their shoes, in their hair, even like on their Christmas trees, and I think it is just such a cute trend that I absolutely love. For recommending, I recommend that today you say something nice to someone. Give them a compliment, tell them you like their shoes, tell them you like their shirt. Just be kind to someone today. And for treating, I've been treating myself to a new pair of goggles because mine were absolutely disgusting and swim season just started, so I definitely was in the market for some new goggles. All right, that's it for today's opening segment, and let's get into the album review. I'm joined with Lucas for our album review. Today's album is The Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. This is an alternative rock album that was released in 1973. And I think we've all seen this cover. It's absolutely iconic. But I was really intrigued because I'd never listened to a majority of these songs. So it was definitely really interesting to go a little deeper into these songs. So we're going to be starting with our favorite. My favorite on the album was Us and Them. I ranked the song a 9 out of 10. I was really pleasantly surprised by this song. I'd never heard it before, but I really loved it. I loved the vocals, and I think that the instruments used worked so well together. I'm not super knowledgeable on like the whole production when it comes to music and like the instruments, but I just really loved the tune of this song. It's a really long song. It's about 8 minutes, but I think it was worth every minute. The lyrics kind of described like fighting and separation, and it kind of urged us to overcome that, hence the title Us and Them. I really enjoyed this song, was very pleasantly surprised.
My favorite song on this album was Brain Damage. This is, in my opinion, the song that makes the album, and for one reason, it's because they actually utter the title of the album in the song. They're like, "We'll see you on the dark side of the moon." This is just a great track. I love the vocal. This is you know me, I'm the vocals guy. I love the vocals. It's just a great sounding track, and I believe it is the best on this album.
I also really appreciated kind of the nod to the title of the album. I thought that was really cool. All right, for my second favorite, I'm giving this one to The Great Gig in the Sky. I rated this about an 8.5 out of 10. This song to me is just the ultimate listening experience. Not a ton of lyrics, which usually I'm not super big on, but this song, it was so good. It's unlike anything I've ever heard before, I think. And I think it kind of comes full circle. At the very beginning, there's some dialogue, and it's talking about like being frightened of dying, being afraid to die. And then I think the whole song as a whole kind of like almost takes you through life's journey. Just so powerful. And then at the end, more lyrics are kind of said like, "I'm not afraid to die" or something like that. I think it just was a very full circle moment, and this song was honestly life-changing. I really liked it.
My second favorite song on this album is Any Color You Like. I had that at about a 9 out of 10, and because I just really like how it opens. It's pretty similar to the song Life of the Party, kind of reminded me of Andre 3000's verse. It's got like an electronic feel. It leads off with escalating synths, and just the escalation itself paves the way for a great song ahead. Obviously, all these songs on this album are pretty long. I really like Any Color You Like, and it precedes Brain Damage as a song before it. So having those two back to back is a great part of this album, even though it's towards the end. I really like Any Color You Like.
This is really interesting because the next superlative we're going to do is our least favorite, and I actually said that Any Color You Like was my least favorite on the album. Again, not a lot of lyrics, which usually as you can kind of tell, this is a pattern, sinks my rating when there are no lyrics. I just love when there's great lyrics in a song. But for this one, I just especially didn't love the instrument choices. I don't know, it just really wasn't right up my alley, kind of the musicality of it. So I didn't really enjoy this one, but I can see why, if you're big into like the kind of different musical aspects, why you would like it. It just really wasn't for me.
For my least favorite song, I'm picking Time. I just wasn't the biggest fan. I actually feel like the voices in this song kind of deterred it. I actually feel like it would have been better off as just an instrumental. So Time, I wasn't the biggest fan of Money either, but I'm going to have to go Time as my least favorite on this album. Just because, I don't know, the Apple Music describes this album as a sweet-like journey through the nature of human experience. And obviously, time is a big underlying theme in the human experience, but I just feel like it shouldn't be an underlying theme on this album, off this song. So I'm going to say Time is my least favorite on this album.
That is, again, really interesting because our final superlative for the most underrated and kind of unique song I actually gave to Time. I ranked the song around a 7.5 out of 10, and I just thought it was a really unique song. It had a rather long intro, about 2 minutes, which I didn't love per se, but I really liked the lyrics. It kind of speaks on time and how it impacts your life and it catches up on you, which I thought was really meaningful, and it kind of reminded me that like I have time in life, you know? The lyrics and like the vocals kind of felt a little more of like heavier rock, which kind of took me by surprise. Obviously it is a rock album, but kind of when they started singing, I was like, oh, okay, this is a little bit different. But I think this song is definitely worth a listen.
For my most interesting song, I picked On the Run. I just looked at the lyrics and it kind of blew me away, the storytelling, because I feel like the storytelling on this album kind of goes under the radar. If you're just listening to it, you probably won't notice it. But after I read the Apple Music description, it all kind of made sense to me. On the Run is, as it seems, it's a story about being on the run. And the lyrics tell a story, and you know I'm a sucker for that. So I'm going to give this song my most interesting song on the album. But if it wasn't that, I'd say it's Eclipse, which is a great ending to this album.
I also found that song super interesting. I liked how it almost like took place like in an airport. You were boarding a plane, kind of escaping from something. You were on the run. Really cool. All right, so for the overall rating on this album, I only gave this album a 5.5 out of 10, which I know is a rather low rating. I think this album just wasn't really my cup of tea. It was big into like instruments, and that's not something I know a lot about. So yeah, not something I can speak a ton on. I liked how a lot of songs did kind of seamlessly fade into the next one, though. I think there were some good storytelling aspects there. So even though it's not right up my alley, I really appreciated the album, and it felt really cohesive despite having so many different types of music. And I'm glad I finally took a listen. Definitely an album you should listen to at least once in your life.
I'm going to give this album a 7 out of 10, not for the way it started, but the way it ended. I feel like it started rough, but once you turn the page on Money, the last 4 songs were all great songs and somewhat playlist worthy. This album is pretty good. It's obviously a classic. It's been around longer than my parents, and I'm going to say 7 out of 10. It could be higher. The thing I love about this album is it's completely subjective. You could say it's a 3 and I'd agree with you. You could say it's a 10 and I'd agree with you. There's so much going on in the album. It's such a classic, and 50 years. Shout out Cash wrote a story about the 50th anniversary of this album. I highly recommend you go read it. Cash has been on a tear this year, writing all sorts of stuff about music. 50 years we've had to reflect on this album, and I feel like a lot has changed in music since then, and this album still kind of holds up, so I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10.
Definitely a cool album, and that was it for our album review. Let's get into our next segment. Jumping right into our next segment, which is usually playlist essentials, but I think that today we're going to do something a little different. We'll still have playlist essentials sometimes, but I would also like to switch it up with different kind of games and activities relating to music. So we're going to be starting strong with a Who Said It game, Sheakspeare or Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift is just an amazing songwriter, and so many of her lyrics are so poetic and sound like a great poet like Shakespeare could write them. So I'm going to be quizzing Lucas today on some quotes, and he's going to guess if it was said by Shakespeare or it's in a Taylor Swift song. I am a big Swiftie, so I kind of know all these answers, which is why I'm just going to be quizzing him today. All right, number 1. Cowards die many times before their deaths.
I'm gonna go Taylor Swift for this one. I feel like that is something that you'd find on Reputation, and that's my guess.
Unfortunately, this is a quote from Shakespeare. Okay, number 2. Whether weather be the frost or the violence of the dog days.
I'm gonna go Taylor Swift again. I just feel like Shakespeare would not have the word weather 2 times. Obviously, they're different words, but I'm gonna go Taylor Swift on this one, and I'm gonna say that it's on Speak Now.
You are correct in that it is Taylor Swift. But this is actually from her song Evermore, which I gave a shout out to in the last episode, which is also on the album Evermore, of course. Next, we have just twin fire signs for blue eyes.
I'm gonna go Taylor Swift again. Something about this quote is just telling me it's Taylor Swift. Obviously, she has blue eyes, and you mentioned blue eyes, so I'm gonna go with Taylor Swift.
That is correct. Do you have a guess on what album this is from?
Give me Lover.
This is from Red. It is from the song State of Grace. Next, we have This is the Very Ecstasy of Love.
I'm going Shakespeare on this one. I just think you can't have 3 Taylors in a row. And, yeah, Shakespeare's the type of guy to use a big word like ecstasy.
Don't like that logic, but that is correct. This is a Shakespeare quote. Now you hang from my lips like the gardens of Babylon.
That is definitely a Taylor Swift line if I've ever seen it, and I don't even know what album that would be from, but I'm just gonna say Lover again because it just, I don't know. That's what the vibes are telling me.
You are correct. It is Taylor Swift. It is from Evermore from the song Cowboy Like Me. All the world's a stage.
I'm gonna have to go Shakespeare on this one because obviously we know what he gave to our culture, and most of it took place on a stage. So that feels very Shakespearean in itself, and I'm going to give the nod to Shakespeare on this quote.
Yes, that's correct. This one was a little more obvious. Next up, we have, did I close my fist around something delicate? Did I shatter you?
Okay, originally I was thinking Taylor Swift, but I'm going to go Shakespeare on this one. I'm not quite sure what led me away, but I'm going to say Shakespeare. It just feels like it's leaning too far into Taylor Swift to be Taylor Swift, so I'm going to go Shakespeare.
Should have gone with your gut on this one. This is actually a Taylor Swift lyric from the song Coney Island, which is also on Evermore. If you cannot tell, Evermore is a very, very strong lyric album. There's some amazing lyrics on Evermore. Next up, we have, I wish to know the fatal flaw that makes you long to be magnificently cursed.
All right, I'm going Shakespeare for this one, and I have full confidence in this guess, so if I'm wrong, I'm going to look pretty stupid, but I just don't know how you could fit that into a lyric and just recite that onto a song with it sounding good. So I'm going to go with Shakespeare for this one because there's just no way that you can say that in a song. Hopefully Taylor proves me wrong, but...
Well, if anyone can do it, it would be Taylor Swift because this is a Taylor Swift lyric. It is from the song Ivy, which is also on Evermore. How can it be said I am alone when all the world is here to look on me?
I'm going Shakespeare on this one. I have less confidence now that I got that last one wrong, but I feel like this ties into how Shakespeare's character is, being on a stage and whatnot. So being viewed by many people, I'm going Shakespeare for this one.
That is correct. This is a Shakespeare quote. And the last one we have today. Do you miss the rogue who coaxed you into paradise and left you there?
I'm going Taylor Swift on this one.
And that is correct. This is also from Coney Island, which is on Evermore. All right, that was our game of Who Said It, Shakespeare or Taylor Swift. Definitely some shockers there, but overall a super fun game. This brings us to our final segment, which is our new releases and kind of touching on what is next. So for new album releases, when you're listening to this, it will be Friday. So for the new album releases today, first we have Pink Friday 2 by Nicki Minaj. I was honestly surprised when I saw that this was coming out. I'm not a huge Nicki Minaj fan, so I wasn't like really following with her activity, but I know there are some absolute bangers on the original Pink Friday, so this is definitely going to be a really cool listen.
Obviously, it should not need to be said that Nicki Minaj is the best female rapper we've had in the game since Lauryn Hill. She is one of my all-time favorites. She's just got some really good songs for like parties, good. You know, you go to the school dances, they got the Nicki Minaj on. Shout out Super Bass Queen herself, Nicki Minaj, Pink Friday 2, I will be listening.
Next up, we have Think Later by Tate McRae, who is a singer that I really love. She's definitely a rising pop star. She's not super well known yet, but I think she definitely has the opportunity to become a big star. I absolutely love her song. She has a super unique voice, and I'm really excited to listen to her new release.
Yeah, Tate McRae has definitely been rising up the ranks of the music scene these past few months and even years, and I'm sure she's going to put out a great product, and I'll probably listen. I'm kind of excited.
And the final album release that I have written down here for today is Rebel Diamonds by The Killers. Honestly, the only The Killers song I think I know is Mr. Brightside, but I know that they are a pretty popular group, so if you are a fan, definitely give this new album a listen, and I think I might check it out for myself too, just to kind of see what it's all about.
No comment. I don't even know Mr. Brightside, if we're being honest, so I am not going to advise any further comment, but if you want to listen, feel free.
Okay, so the next album we will be reviewing in our next episode is going to be Unreal Unearthed by Hozier. I have listened to this album. I am familiar. I listened to it when it came out. I think it came out in July, so fairly recent, but I'm a pretty big Hozier fan, and I really like this album, so I'm excited to kind of give it a little bit of a deeper dive, and yeah, really excited for this.
Yeah, I have not listened to it yet, so this will be my first listen, but obviously Take Me to Church is one of my favorite songs. Honestly, it's a great song. I love the message, and Hozier is just great at making music, so I'm going to listen to this, and we will see you on Wednesday with this episode. I'm very excited.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode, and we'll see you next time. Bye.